If you're an average player, you want to be left alone, right? Because you want to be able to slide by. If you're a good player, you want to be coached. If you're a great player, you want the coach to tell you the truth every day. Did I hustle on that play? Did I make the right read? Did I play the guy with the right leverage? You want to know every play. Because you know why? They want to be perfect. Everybody here makes a choice to do one of those three things.
Welcome to the GOAT Consulting Podcast, a podcast dedicated to people striving to be a GOAT, the greatest of all time, serving it up in a way that you can get it in all stages of life.
Hey, I'm Colby Jubenville. Welcome to another episode of the GOAT Consulting Podcast right here in Pod Studio 1 in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Around the table with me, as always, is the CEO of the GOAT Consulting Empire, the GOAT Empire, the GOAT family of brands.
The enterprise.
GOAT Imprints.
Yeah.
Have you started a new business this week?
No.
It's 2021. It's a new year.
I really realized we need to focus a lot on what we got.
That's a good
Whoa.
idea.
Hold on. Let's make that the title of the show.
Ooh.
We got to really
on to what you
realize
got.
we got to focus on what we got. I think there was a song written about that. And to the left, from Brentwood, the calming force to our show. And we always call him the LinkedIn Whisperer. And that's really relevant.
We should do a show on it.
Today, I think we're going to. I think today the topic is going to be around LinkedIn and the impact that it has. But before that, let's talk about why we started this podcast.
I like that.
Each one of us all believe in the same things when it comes to these three things. Number one, you got to serve it up in a way that you can get it. That's why we have Waffle House. It's the way you communicate. It's the way you communicate with your family. It's the way you communicate with the people you work with. It's the way you communicate with your clients. Number two is that we believe there's things out there called GOATs, and we brought some on for you, and we will continue to bring more on for you. We had our first guest.
staple.
It's a
Every
staple,
episode.
absolutely. And GOATs are people that compete on unique perspective, education, and experience. What they do gives them energy, and it gives other people energy, and it creates new levels of challenge for them, and at the same time, new levels of opportunity.
Mine won't be beat today. I don't want to interrupt you, but I just needed to say that.
Well,
I guess I did want to interrupt. But
A goat for a LinkedIn whisperer?
we will see.
I'm going John Byers.
John Byers is the.
Oh, wow.
You are the GOAT of LinkedIn, and then the last part of that's so important and something to think about, and we frame these up so that you can think about the one idea that we talk about in each episode. But it's our 20s we get in the game.
John Barnett.
In our 30s we move up in the game. In our 40s we stay in the game because those 30-year-olds are so damn good. We try
Thank
to
you.
anyway.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you.
In our 50s we finally say, what is it that I really want? And each stage of life brings new challenges and new opportunities. And I will tell you that today's episode is about LinkedIn. And John had some trepidation about doing this because you were a little worried that you may feel exposed. But I did
Misconstrued.
Yeah.
I did reassure you that, number one, we live in a more connected
a more LinkedIn world.
in a less relational world. Yes. Yeah, and speak no further. I think that LinkedIn is one of the reasons that we are more connected and less relational. And there's reasons for that. I mean, yes, technology has certainly provided all of us with the opportunity to connect. But when you start letting the technology control you versus you controlling the technology, we created technology for us to have a better experience and a better life. We did not create technology to put us out of work, to replace us. And the more that we spend and invest in technology in the world that we live in with trucks that drive themselves.
I need one of those.
Well, and I would go further, and we'll talk more about this, but I would say certainly some of the technology we'll talk about today is designed to promote connection, which is also probably one of the biggest things we miss with it also.
Tell me what you mean by that.
Well, I think I got to talk about my GOAT and who will very genuinely, beautifully describe and lay out the frame, I think, of this conversation. I'm just going to keep these mints over here away from you for this
Please.
episode.
He tried to hand them to me. I think my breath stinks.
So between 1983 and 1994, that's 11 years,
Wasn't
there
in
was a
kindergarten yet.
show
I feel old.
called The Joy of Painting. that was on 3 different continents,
Oh man,
and it was 11 years running.
he's doing this for a reason.
Got to be.
The GOAT, Bob Ross.
I
No
know what
clue.
you're saying.
And he has been on recent episodes of The Family Guy, Deadpool movie, any good, decent Halloween party you go to, Bob Ross will be there.
I was Bob Ross for Halloween.
Oh, were you? That's
Yeah.
where he's going.
He was some scary clown that I almost left the party because it was so scary.
Well, that was a great movie, the Clowns from Outer Space. Bob Ross, here's one of my favorite things about him that he talks about. He had beef with a lot of his painting instructors, and here's why. He'd say, and I think it frames up this conversation that we're going to have really well done.
Well, you're a natural teacher here, buddy.
He said they tell you what makes a tree, but they wouldn't tell you how to paint one.
And that's exactly what you do, whispering in LinkedIn.
I just
You killed it, man.
Filled,
Let's
it filled in,
just
and we all
stop
know
it right
all
there.
know Bob Ross because thank you, Carl.
Get away.
We can cut it. We can cut it. Well, we all know Bob Ross is what one of his famous lines every episode. In fact, ironically, I turned the TV on this morning, and we do internet TV in the house, and so it defaults to TV Plus. Lo and behold, The Joy of Painting was on this morning, and you know what Bob said?
What?
Just gonna put a happy little tree right here. These happy little stick right here. That's his thing. But it wasn't. Here's what I wrote about Bob, because we're friends. He reminded us that the how is critical in connection. And that's what leads into this conversation.
No doubt. We've had you've shared with me. Obviously, you send me texts or emails of the kinds of connections that you've had, and I do think that connections are important. And I think that we're sold a bill of goods in LinkedIn that the whole reason you do it is to build networks. But you see something so much different than that. You see based on the things that you've shared with me and the things that I want you to share with our audience, and why I call you the LinkedIn Whisperer, is you see the ability to build relationship and connection through that network.
Yeah, and I'll touch on that, but let me touch on something you said a moment ago too. Is that I kind of felt like talking about this was a bit exposing, simply because, which leads into that next thought that you just mentioned, is that I don't want this to come out as in a way that everything I do in life is my best effort to be genuine and intentional.
I believe that.
And I screw it up a lot, but it is still my best effort. And LinkedIn is just that. I'm not really on any other social media platform. I mean, it's very intentional why I'm on LinkedIn. And it's vulnerable to talk about this because my hope is anybody in our global audience,
The reach.
whatever continent that you're listening from, like
Australia.
while you're watching The Joy of Painting and Bob Ross,
I've never watched it.
this really, really hurts me.
I have
that you
ADD.
just said that.
I can't do it.
Well,
His voice, I got to shut down.
God, he's a goat.
Yeah.
But my hope is that this doesn't, I can share about some of these things, but the foundation of all of it, everything I talk about is absolutely meaningless if you miss the fact that this is completely genuine. It's completely personalized. Like, I can't not send any crafted, like auto-generated
When you
invite.
get one of those on LinkedIn, when you get an automated message, what's the first thing you say to yourself?
It was just I probably
Automated
showed
message.
up somewhere and they just clicked on it. It
But
wasn't
even when you connect with them, let's just say that you look at their
trying to
profile.
sell me something. Or,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's. I say to myself, I'm not responding to this. Hey, Colby, cheers to you. Looks like you've got a lot going on.
Listen, if you get that, then that's more than 99% of what people send, because
I
normally
know.
it's, hey, I'd like to join your LinkedIn network, and that's the automated email that comes through.
No, we've moved past the automated
Hi,
email.
we need you
No,
as a
we haven't.
supervisor. at
Yeah,
Amazon.
we've moved. Yes, we have. If I can pull up 10 of them right now.
Well,
and
you're-
they're all different.
I would say you're the anomaly.
But they're all automated. They're custom content, but they're all automated, and they feel automated.
yeah.
Their goal.
see
You
that.
have a specific goal when you use LinkedIn, which is to do what? When you connect with people, what is your end game?
to get linked up.
Well, I want to meet them.
Meet them.
Like it's a face-to-face, and if we're not careful, I think the thing I constantly remind myself with is, and if we're not careful, this is an episode about connection, and that's not transactional. If we're not careful, LinkedIn can become very transactional. And I think we just have to really keep some things foundational in this conversation, and that is genuine, high intent, abundant, intentional efforts to connect. And that's not just to connect, a shared connection, quote, as LinkedIn puts it, but an actual face-to-face
relationship.
relationship. That's what it is.
So connection to you is different than connection to what LinkedIn wants it to be. I'm sure they base all their success on the number. How many users does LinkedIn have?
Oh, geez.
Over 600 million.
Oh, no, I think it's...
Is that right?
I think it's well over that, but
Hold on.
I'm sure we could probably go to the Google and
Carl,
find
do you
that out.
know?
Let's just say it's billions. Just for kicks.
760 million.
Yeah,
There you go.
760 million. Look
And
at-
some people
proud of
pride
you.
themselves of like having that many connections on there.
Right,
And
and-
I don't, that's not a thing for me.
You don't count how many Facebook friends you have.
I'm hardly ever on Facebook, but I would tell you for LinkedIn, the goal for me is
Yeah.
to develop a relationship, not just a connection. And so I'm very intentional and genuine about who I send an invitation to, who I will accept an invitation from
Yeah.
to connect. And regardless, 100% of the time, whether I'm sending or accepting, I'm making an offer to meet face to face and or virtual, as we live in that kind of time these days. And it's terribly inefficient in some ways.
Sure.
In the same way that I just cannot send out a mass email. I can't do it. I never have been able to do it in my career. And anytime I want to send out an email to multiple people, I personalize every single one of them. And in some ways, that is terribly inefficient.
It is, but I bet you it's probably led to some of your greatest
I
opportunities.
get about 60% response rate on them when I send them out.
To that same point there, I charge a $100 consultation fee now. I never used to do that. I tell it to other people in the industry. They tell me I'm crazy. I used to do probably 80 quotes a month. Now I do 25. But my close rate went from 20% to 65%.
Beautiful analogy.
So I don't.
You're
It's not
being-
about how many. It's about it's the quality over
exactly
quantity.
right.
Same thing. So
Yep. And
I would
what's-
rather have
and-
more authentic relationships.
Yeah.
I would rather have less opportunity, the perspective of opportunity, and better conversations, better relationship, value. Right? We talked about creating value in the last episode.
Your example is exactly what is going on here on LinkedIn. You're going to spend the time to do something that's meaningful for you and for them.
Yeah.
Well, we talk about it all the time in business and relationships and whatever. It's about a win-win relationship.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like we talk about this sometimes. It's like if I had salt, you had sugar, and I needed some sugar and you needed some salt. We both need to win, right? And the value of my salt can be way higher to you than it is me because it's supply and demand, right?
Sure.
So it's always about giving the other person what they need and you getting what you need too. And that's what we try to do all the time. Is my customers don't have usability. Their dogs are always tracking in mud. The kids can't play out there. Whatever the problem is for that customer, we go to them and we say, what matters most?
Yeah. What matters most
And
to
then
you?
when we can solve that problem and we can win and they can win, that's what we're after. And I think you just said the same thing.
And to that point, I think what matters most in LinkedIn, it's the relationship,
Well,
right?
what did Jerry Maguire say? the key to this business is personal relationships. What you've figured out how to do that I've not seen anybody else do, that I've asked you to come on and do this, and I know it would be hard to do, is you've figured out how to build personal relationships that are meaningful for both people. Doesn't say that they're going to go somewhere for sure. It just means that in the moment you're going to have the relationship to see what is there.
And I've found that people resonate with that. In fact, sometimes people, when I offer to connect, and again, I'm very intentional in who I'm sending those invitations to, they will oftentimes come back and say something like, "Hey, what product or what's your agenda and meeting?" And I will let them know, look, I don't have. I don't even, that's not where I'm going. You're 10 steps ahead of me.
Right.
The goal is to some of the language I use, which is very intentional and I think I resonate with. And because I believe in it, I think others do too, is look, let's just find a way we can better take over the world together.
Yeah.
And people love that.
That's an easy way to present it. So can you read, can you read an exchange where you've had where, I love some of those exchanges where somebody has said.
And while you're looking, I want to bring up a point to kind of what we're talking about. The first meeting us three had was at Urban Grub.
That's right.
And one of the things you told me in that meeting was that if I'm the right partner, what I've learned through my experience and my education is that if I'm the right partner for you, then I'm here. But I only want to do business with you if I'm the right partner for you.
That's right.
And that's what, after that conversation, when you're in a growth phase, you're trying to take about every customer you can get. But we're starting to transition, and that is always in the forefront of my mind. I always flash back to that conversation and that 30 seconds we had, and I say to my customers, I may be more expensive, I may be cheaper, but let me explain why. I know what my costs are. I know where I need to be for it to be a win-win relationship. If I'm the right person for you, if turf or whatever solution I bring to the table is the right thing for you and it fits within what money you're willing to spend, then I want to be your person.
Yeah.
If not, I'll be more than happy to lead you in the right direction. And in the past, I associated the win with getting the deal. And now I associate the win with the right fit and the win-win relationship. And I think that's one thing that's helped transform my business and my company. And that goes to not only just selling to customers, but when I hire new employees.
And
are you going to get something you don't have and that you want? And am I going to get something I don't have and I want too?
And it's that genuine, abundant mindset, high intent mindset is the same approach I take on LinkedIn and connecting with somebody than if I'm sitting in front of a potential client and I say the very same thing. Look, the intent here is to help you find the right partner, and that may not be us.
Yep.
And really mean it. And
I don't even think that's your intent in the beginning. When you send to somebody and say,
no, it's
he's
not.
just talking about
in the same way, the mindset.
Because you said it to me the first time we met. You go, man, I'm just trying to find people that also want to take over the world together.
Yeah.
I'm like, where the hell have you been all my life?
Yeah.
I've been looking for people like that too, and I found a bunch of people that want to do it, but they want to do it on their own.
Yeah.
They don't want me to be a part of it.
Yeah.
They want to be part of it to a point, but not to a point there's a real relationship.
Had the same thing with the conversation. I won't go into detail about it, but I had that with somebody this morning. Is that, I've tried to do this multiple times with different people and it never works. And it never works because they don't put in what I'm willing to put in and they're not on the same page and they just want, but don't want to do. And I'm like,
well, we talked about missed opportunities on the episode that dropped December 28th. And one of the things I shared in that episode was the biggest missed opportunities are the ones that keep us from connection. Most people, all 700 million of them, or however many on LinkedIn, most of them miss the opportunity for the real value and what it can help forge is the relationship. So you asked me to read an email, and I'll share this because this is one of my all-time favorites. Not an email, but a connection or an attempt to connect on LinkedIn.
This is a good one. And
this is from Patrick. So Patrick, if you're listening, I'm not going to give your last name, but
Patrick S.
Yes. It says, it'll take me just a second here. It says, my name is Patrick. I'm in the 1%.
Yes. Oh, what a great way to introduce yourself.
I mean, you just are.
I'm ready.
You're just laying it out. I want you to know that you're lucky to read this email from me, right? You're lucky.
Thank you.
More specifically, I am a top award-winning executive consultant that specializes in blah, blah, blah. And I've helped over 1,000 individuals find the perfect fit based on their interest and financial goals. And he goes on to tell me how awesome he is. And that here is what's really great. After he lays out this laundry list of self-acclaimed accolades.
Yeah.
My secret sauce is this. So everybody listening, listen.
Here's the secret sauce.
This is the secret sauce.
Rarely do you get this, folks. This is a big deal. We're giving today, this episode only. This is the secret sauce.
The Whisperer.
The Whisperer.
You'll have to send a check for $10, and then I'll send you this soundbite.
The
But
dollar
we're just
check
going to move
back.
on. Now, here's what he says. The secret sauce is this. Focusing first, in all caps, focusing first on you. And then he, again, goes on.
Because he's done that throughout his whole email.
Yes. So, yeah, exactly. That was my point, right? So I rarely respond to these, but I just felt compelled to do it. And I won't read my exact response, but I did find
Just a flavor.
I did find it entertaining, and I shared this with him. Obviously my expressed genuine, abundant amount of gratitude for this kindness
Thank
that he
you
showed
for the
me.
1%er to do this for you.
Yeah, it was pretty special. But, I did find it ironic that he spends the first 90% of the email telling me how awesome he is, and then that
telling you the secret sauce
is focusing on me.
you.
So,
Yeah.
but I think
Did you get a response?
No, he didn't write me back. But here's the thing:
It's a great example.
most people, 760 million of the folks on LinkedIn, go after the connections that way, as opposed to a true effort to develop a relationship.
All right,
They go
let's
straight
hear
to
that.
10 instead of the relationship that leads to 10 eventually. Is that what you're saying?
Have you got an example of one of your whisperings?
Well, no, I will protect the innocent in that. But I will say this: here's
Well, let's give them a general
rundown.
framework of
what's in your head, like something's coming to mind.
Somehow you were able to get a meeting and you met with somebody and you realized that you were the right partner for them.
Well,
and
no.
I mean, I will say that several of my largest clients have come from LinkedIn.
Okay, so I'll give you,
And we joke that, anytime we're introducing several of my clients, I mean, they'll say, yeah, John and I met on the internet. And that's just,
that's what I'm talking about.
and we joke about it, right? And it all comes from, I think one of the lines that I've enjoyed sharing with folks lately is, and this has really come up in 2020, is that I'm really trying to pay attention to the LinkedIn gods.
Yeah.
Because the LinkedIn gods are super smart, and there's algorithms that are built that tell us here's who you should consider connecting with.
All right, so let's take a pause right there because this is a great teachable moment. So you're sitting there and you've clicked on this because you think that listening to something called the LinkedIn Whisper will be interesting to you, which we hope it has been. And now he talks about this thing called the LinkedIn gods, which are different than the Facebook gods.
That's true.
But we could talk about that as well. But you're looking at your screen. How do you know when the LinkedIn gods are talking to you? How do you know? I know, but explain to the audience.
Yeah.
How do you know it? Because there's a way that you taught me how you see it.
Well, technically, if you go to your network,
Right.
and there's another platform that LinkedIn has too, that you can get real customized in the certain types of folks you want to connect with,
Right.
or a certain number of shared connections,
Right.
So anytime I send an invite, I will actually say, again, if I feel like they could be a good connection, I'll say, hey, look, I'm reaching out to folks that I share 20
X number of
plus,
connections.
100 plus connections with,
Yeah.
right? And I'll reach out to those folks. But if you go to the network tab on the very top,
Yep.
you can actually, LinkedIn will say, hey, we think you should connect with these people. And there's algorithms that kind of match up certain things about shared networks, shared number of connections, where you went to school, those kinds of
So
things.
those are the gods.
Those are the LinkedIn gods.
Those are the LinkedIn gods that are speaking to
They're
you.
talking to you.
And so, one example that I'll share of your abundance and that benefits me is you connected with somebody out in Texas in the natural gas industry and just simply said, I saw through your website that you were looking for great content and speakers and just wanted to introduce you to me. And a conversation begins from there. And
Yeah.
how in the world could that happen? I texted you. How did you get this to happen?
Yeah.
How long have you known her? I just met her on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn has been so fun. It's been so fun since the 2020, and I was on a virtual call the other day with with a lady from England. She lives in England. And we met via LinkedIn because it was one of those things. LinkedIn kept putting her face in front of mine. We work in a similar industry. It just seemed to make sense. And we chatted and plotted world domination. Like, this is.
But you were able to look at like where she was from. You were looking look at her college.
Absolutely.
You made some kind of comment about her university
That's right.
that connected her back to being at home.
Exactly
and I mean,
right.
that just shows you the power that you can connect with somebody across the sea.
Yep.
And build a relationship if you'll do it
Intentionally, genuinely,
in a meaningful way.
and high intentional and high abundance.
And listen to the gods.
That's exactly right.
Listen to the guys.
Listen
Pay them
to
homage. They'll treat you well.
They've treated you well. And we hope that they will continue to treat you well. In 2021, I hope you'll take some of John Byer's advice, John. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being vulnerable because
stuff.
that's a difficult subject to tackle. But I think, if you think about LinkedIn, most people talk about this. They talk about you can search it for jobs.
Right.
You can search it for people.
They're missing it.
You can search it for hashtags, and you can search it for groups. And you're saying, yeah, you can do all that.
None of that came to mind for me when you asked me to share.
Right. What you said is there's so much more because we live in a more connected, need to be more relational world. And technology does not need to lead us. We need to lead technology.
Right.
And you're doing that every
said.
day through the LinkedIn gods. For Tyler, for John, I'm Colby Jubenville. This is Pod Studio One. Carl, we appreciate your time today. This is the GOAT Consulting Podcast.
Boom.